Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. We are starting with something that I think a lot of people are going to see as good news, something that's going to give them more confidence about PlayStation going into the future. This is being reported by VGC. PlayStation co-CEO Herman Hulst has said Sony is open to reviving its back catalog of classic game franchises. Speaking to Famitsu, the executive said that going forward, the platform holder intends to offer a broad range of experiences from both its first-party studios and by working with external developers. The various IPs that we own are an important asset to PlayStation, and as part of our efforts to strengthen our portfolio, we are continually looking at opportunities to leverage past IP as well as develop new franchises, he said. Our goal is to publish games by the world's best creators, both inside and outside of PlayStation, and we have achieved many successes so far by working closely with external development studios. Herman Hulst also praised the performance of Team Asobi's Astrobot, which won Game of the Year at the Game Awards this month. According to the co-CEO, Astrobot sold 1.5 million copies in its first 9 weeks, with nearly 40% of those sales coming from players who were either purchasing a PlayStation game for the first time or for the first time in 2 years. We were thrilled that it has been so well received by the gaming community with a Metacritic score of 94 and a wide range of players who are truly enjoying the game, Hulst said. It has also contributed significantly to the expansion of the community, with a higher percentage of younger players and families purchasing the game compared to other titles. So this is a quote from Herman Hulst that has been making the rounds. Obviously, he's talking a little bit about Astrobot, but specifically what he said prior to that about leveraging older IP and kind of acknowledging older IP. Now, I have seen quite a few people getting ahead of themselves, assuming that basically what Herman is saying is they're going to start reviving classic PlayStation IP that players have been asking for years, left and right. That's just what you can expect going forward. That is not what he said. We need to understand he's just acknowledging that they have a lot of classic and older and dormant IP that they will try to leverage, as he puts it, in any way that makes sense. Now, I think we saw that with Astrobot. I think we're seeing that with the Killzone 2 / Helldivers 2 crossover. But obviously, what players really want to know is how far this is going to go. Is this going to just be something that Sony tries to, just dabble in a little bit here and there, or are they going to get very serious, kind of like what Capcom's doing, and really make a play to revive some of these older IP? I hope it's the second one there, because truthfully, I think that Sony could use that right now, and I think a lot of people would be very receptive to it. But either way, it's a good sign that Herman Hulst is acknowledging this, and maybe that is exactly what they're planning on doing. Moving on to the next topic, though, continuing with hearing a little bit more from Sony, they once again reiterate that they are focused on home consoles. This is coming from Hideaki Nishino. It says the focus of Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation remains on home consoles, according to co-CEO Hideaki Nishino. During an interview with Famitsu, Sony Interactive Entertainment co-CEO Hideaki Nishino was asked about predictions regarding future home consoles being on the cloud instead of hardware, and about his perspective on the possibility of such structural changes for PlayStation. In his response, Nishino stated that as of today, many users are playing PS4 games, and the number of PS5 games is also increasing. He doesn't expect things to suddenly change on that front anytime soon, and he believes home consoles will definitely be the core of the company's business for a while. However, Nishino mentioned that different ways of playing, such as PC, are also increasing. Therefore, Sony Interactive Entertainment is in the process of figuring out how to increase the overall number of PlayStation users, including PlayStation Network users. He pointed towards the possibility of cloud gaming with PS Portal running PS5 games, and how that may lead to the misconception that gaming has already entered the cloud era. However, he explained that users still need a controller and a display at hand, and therefore he doesn't believe the hardware will disappear anytime soon. As for the length of the PS5's life cycle, Nishino believes that the console will be around for a long time, just like the PS4. However, he does not think it's right to delay the release of the company's next console that incorporates new technology because of this. The timing of introducing new hardware is related to the timeline of technological evolution and the timeline for Sony Interactive Entertainment to implement it. on the next generation PlayStation home console being in the works and Sony Interactive Entertainment's direction moving forward, the co-CEO said that he believes that products are released with a balance of technology, price, and timing. As such, the company is always considering when it will hit the spot it feels is right. So nothing major being revealed here by Hideaki Nishino, but it is, I think, important to highlight that he is reiterating that the focus for PlayStation for, I believe, as he puts it, a while going forward will be on the console, on hardware. And I do think that it's important for Sony to continue to reiterate this at this point in time when we see like what was their main competitor in Microsoft basically walking away from the console business and just really putting it on the back burner and making it abundantly clear that hardware is not their focus and it's just not going to be going forward, considering how successful the PlayStation 5 is, and the fact that a lot of people are making the assumption that Sony's going to follow Microsoft down this road. Maybe long-term they could, but as of right now, there's no reason for them to do that. They are committed to the PlayStation console. They're making that clear. And they also are hinting a little bit at when the PS6 is going to come. And it seems to sound to me like the way I'm reading this is that we can expect the PS5 generation to last about as long as the PS4 generation did before we should expect the PlayStation 6. But we're going to move on to the next topic, which talks about Naughty Dog's Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and how it may feature some horror elements. This is a current rumor that's making the rounds. The news comes from Jonastic, a Spanish YouTuber who follows Naughty Dog closely. According to the new details, Intergalactic could incorporate horror elements. This claim stems from work by Naughty Dog's concept artist Ty Martinez, whose portfolio includes designs rooted in horror and suspense, and Colin Lormier, another artist who tagged #horror alongside other genres on social media posts related to the game. Martinez's profile description reads, self-taught artist for 10 plus years, specializing in cinematic, horror, and thriller concepts, using a blend of photography and Photoshop to create realistic cinematic pieces to inspire developers in world building. Lemaire is working as a story artist at Naughty Dog and collaborated with Neil Druckmann on the initial pitch for the trailer Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and it's finally been announced, Lormier said in a post on Instagram. I worked on the initial board pitch with Neil Druckmann and a bunch of talented Naughty Dog artists back in 2023. The trailer's a great tease for what's to come, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. And so there are pictures that are posted on this article associated with this artist, and yeah, they are 100% horror themed, pretty creepy. And so this is, I would say, a rumor that, I wouldn't put too much stock into, because it's like, hey, it seems like Intergalactic may feature some horror elements. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world considering the studio we're talking about here. But given that first trailer, it didn't necessarily convey that. I feel like the one shot where they actually showed the planet itself and the machine, it was a little bit creepy. It did give off a bit of a creepy vibe there. So it would be pretty cool, I think, if they ended up incorporating some horror elements into Intergalactic. But I just wanted to let you guys know about this rumor. We're going to move on to the next topic, which talks about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So there was an interview done with Yoshinori Kitase and IGN Brazil, and one of the major takeaways from this translated interview is he talks about the game's sales, but also about how they need to go full multi-platform to reach as many players as possible. Obviously, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, there's been, a lot of talk about whether or not this game has been a sales flop and a failure. And of course, people are going to attribute this game's potential sales failure to it being exclusive to the PlayStation 5 console. He did say that the sales apparently were not disappointing. Now, I don't think he's speaking entirely on Square Enix's behalf. Honestly, I think he's just talking from the perspective of the team, like it's good enough for them. When it comes to Square, I guarantee it's disappointing. But following that up, he says that they can't, do exclusives anymore, basically. He says, quote, I think we need to offer the game to as many players as possible, end quote. And so what's been really interesting to watch with Final Fantasy specifically is we saw that Remake was a big success, being exclusive to PS4. Then there was Final Fantasy 16, which did, I think, 3 million copies sold in the first 3 days, something along those lines. But it was still labeled a disappointment by Square. And then you have Rebirth, which apparently did even worse. And so the idea is people really, at this point in time, at least a certain amount of people believe that it is the fact that this game is exclusive. Even now the developers are saying, yeah, like, we got to start putting this game everywhere. But I think what people need to keep in mind, and I'm not saying this to make it sound like it's not the reason. I mean, for all I know, these games being exclusive to PS5 could be the reason they're not reaching the level of sales that Square believes they should be reaching. But when we take into account Square has had a history of having just completely unrealistic expectations, exclusivity or not, that on top of the fact that there are many examples of games that are completely multi-platform, available in every format, and they still don't reach their sales expectations, I think the reality that Square Enix may be looking at is that, simply put, their games are just not going to sell as well as they think they are. Regardless of where they're available to buy, it's just not going to happen. Now, I don't think it hurts at all to take a game like Rebirth or Final Fantasy 16 and try to put it everywhere, right? And I think the big one here is the Switch 2. People bring up Xbox, but I'm just going to lay it out there. Xbox is not going to save Final Fantasy sales. I don't know why anybody would think that. I think it could give them a couple sales, sure. Help them make a little bit of money, sure. But it's not going to be the difference maker. The Switch 2, on the other hand, if they could get any of these games over to the Switch 2 when it launches, or, you know, not too long after it launches, I think now that could be a difference maker. That could provide the type of sales boost, potentially, that they're looking for. But it's hard to say if these games could run on the Switch 2, right? It seems unlikely that's going to happen. But I just wanted to cover this because, once again, we are seeing Square Enix and their development teams expressing how they really feel like they have to go completely multi-platform at this point and release their games on as many platforms as possible to try to reach these lofty sale ambitions and goals that Square Enix has set. And, you got to wonder what this means for Part 3 for Final Fantasy Remake. I'm assuming it will be exclusive. It's likely contractually already locked in. But I think there's a reason why they're trying to get a move on and get it done as quickly as possible and get out of that contract. I think it's clear that Square wants nothing to do with exclusivity with anybody at this point. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.